Hello, and good evening. This is MTI, and I'm going to take you to the Promised Lands. No, this is not innuendo. No, I'm not promising I'll take you to heaven or whatever heavenly world you believe in, if you believe in one. I'm talking about the Promised Lands expansion pack for the PC game Populous. You see, on Good Old Games, or GOG, they offer Populous along with the Promised Lands expansion pack. Problem is, they don't tell you how to get to the expansion pack, and in fact, with the default GOG installation, there is not really an easy way to do that. This video tutorial will show you how to get there. Now, I do have to credit the GOG forums, which had two separate topics that led me to this particular solution, and I also went ahead and wrote up a written tutorial that incorporated that information. So I will post the links down below. You can read those if you like, but I imagine if you're on YouTube and you want to play Populous, you are elected to lead, not to read, as The Simpsons once said. So here we go. The first thing you want to do is find where Populous is installed on your system. Now, I do use Windows. I imagine the installation instructions for other OSs via GOG would be similar, but I will admit I cannot confirm that. In any event, like I said, what you want to do is find where Populous is installed. If you use GOG Galaxy, like I do, this is pretty easy. You can click the little slider menu to the right of the play button, and then hit Manage Installation, and then Open Folder, and it will take you here. If you don't use GOG Galaxy, I suppose you just have to kind of know where you installed it, search for it on your machine. In any event, once you get there, I want to call your attention to a few different things. The first one we're going to take a look at is the data folder. And in among a bunch of things that seemingly have to do with graphics, CGA font, EGA font, you're going to find level0.dat and level1.dat. Level0.dat is the standard levels, your original Populous game. Level1.dat is the levels for the Promised Lands expansion. All right, cool. Problem is, this particular installation is always going to try to load level0.dat. So how do we get to the expansion levels? How do we get to level1.dat? Well, there are a few different approaches you can take to this. First one is a more manual approach. But first, let's pop back up, and I will just launch Populous with Promised Lands. This is what it'll kind of do by default. Populous by Bullfrog. Neat little tune there. I don't know if you can hear the tune. Probably not. That's okay. Not important for this tutorial. And I'll just type in EE. Because this is a GOG game, I can just bypass this, and this is what World 0 looks like normally. Landscape, grassy plains. Opponent not very good. We get the full array of commands. The opponent gets none. Cool. Excellent. Out of that. And I want to call your attention, because I use GOG Galaxy, there's also this Cloud Saves folder, which actually has an identical data folder in it. And so this is going to be the first approach you can take, which is to just manually do this every time you want to play the Promised Lands. What I'll do is I'll temporarily rename level 0 to level 2, rename level 1 to level 0, then rename level 0 back to level 1. I'll be honest, I don't actually know if you need to take that last step, but I like to do it. And now if we relaunch Populous, we did that right. Conquest once again. That looks the same. Type in that, bypass that, and you'll see what's up Francaise. This is the expansion content. We loaded the expansion pack successfully by just swapping level 0 and level 1. You can see the parameters are quite different now. You can now use earthquakes and floods and nothing else. Meanwhile, the opponent can use swamps and nothing else, which is actually a buff from what they could do before. All right, great. So that's the first approach you can take. The second approach you can take is a more automated solution, but that requires a little bit of setup, a little bit of additional setup. The next file I want to call your attention to is this DOSBOX Populous _single file. This is a file ending with an extension .conf, but you can just open it in Notepad or the text editor of your choice. And when you open it up, it looks something like this. Maximize it just so you can see it a little better. This first section, IPX, we can ignore this. Don't worry about it. It has to do with connection protocols, not relevant to our interests. The autoexec, that is a little more relevant to our interests. So going line by line, this echo off just says don't echo commands to the little box that pops up. Then mount C, you want to take note of what these two lines look like. You may not have this cloud saves if you don't use GOG Galaxy, but I do. Where mount C is going to is important for the next step. But if you don't know DOSBox or don't know computers or mounting drives, think of DOSBox as like a little mini computer inside your computer. And so what DOSBox is doing is it's saying, okay, this directory that you're in when you run this is now C as far as I am concerned. And then the second overlay is, oh, this is also a C drive as far as I'm concerned. The next line is going to what it considers the C drive, clearing the screen, running Populous with some parameters. Specifically, this is the graphics mode, this is the sound mode, and then when you exit Populous, it bails out. What we want to do is change this file. You want to make a copy of it. Actually, you want to first go into your data folder, and you'll notice, in addition to my level 0 and level 1, I made additional copies of each level 0 and level 1. It doesn't particularly matter what you call them. This was what the tutorial I found on the GOG forum suggested, so it's what I used. Level_OR is the standard set of levels. Level_PL is the Promised Lands. Doesn't really matter what you call them per se, but you do need to know what you called them for the next step. I pop back out here, and I go into this DOS Populous single new file, which is what I typically use. Open that, and you'll see the autoexec is quite a bit larger. I will also put the link to the various lines here that you want to enter, or I will just put them in the description of the video. But essentially what we've done is we've created a menu where a window will pop up asking us, hey, which one do we want to play, the standard game or the Promised Lands? The choice command just restricts your choices to 1, 2, or 3, and that also sets the error level when you pick it. Depending on what is picked, it will go to the relevant section, and what this does is it just performs that copy. If you remember, I said you needed to know what you called the copies of the levels that you made, and this is why. Additionally, you may remember I said note these two lines, they were important. This is why, because you need to mount to the same place. But in any event, what this is doing is if you pick one, the standard game, it's then taking the level OR that we made, the copy of the standard folders, and it's just copying it over to the, in my case, actually the cloud saves, but the level0.dat. It's copying it over as level0.dat, and this /y is basically preemptively telling DOSBox, yes, I'm sure, I don't care what's there. If there's something there, just overwrite it. Don't even prompt me for it. Then it's copying the level PL to the level 1. And then if I pick I want to play the Promised Lands, it's doing the opposite. It's taking level PL, putting that in level 0, and then level OR, putting that in level 1. And then both of them, they load Populous the same way, and then the exit just exits. So once you've done that, I recommend making a copy of this DOSBox Populous single file, just so you can quickly bail out and restore it if you mess it up. But in any event, the file that was loading, I'm now going to call that old. Get rid of the extension there. And now when I launch Populous with Promised Lands, what should happen is a little box pops up. There we go. Populous and Promised Lands. Standard game 2, the Promised Lands. Which one would I like to play? So if I hit 1, you can see it's copying the files over. If I hit Conquest, see, that's the base game there. Cool. And then if I launch it again, this will work if you launch with GOG Galaxy as well. I just happen to be in the folder where I can just launch the game, so I'm just doing it here. But it'll work however you launch the game. And then if I copy level PL over, You bypass that, and you can see landscape is française, reactions fast, yada, yada. So that's it. That's how you get to the expansion pack content. It's that level 1.dat you want to somehow make level 0.dat, whether you do it manually or whether you do it automatically. Hopefully that helps you get to another 500 levels in Populous.